Okay, I think we're good to go now then. Hopefully some more people will join in a bit if they haven't already. So welcome to today's webinar. Welcome to today's session about Ticketco Media Services. My name is Jess and I'm a customer success agent here at Ticketco. I'm based in Norway, but I also help some of our organisers in the UK and in our other territories we operate in. I'm also joined today by Simon. Would you like to introduce yourself, Simon?
No, I will. Hi, I'm Simon Baker. I'm the Technical Director and Digital Producer for Wise Children. Wise Children's Emma Rice's touring theatre company, and we're based in the UK. And last year we worked with Ticketco to live stream our productions of Romantics Anonymous and The Flying Lovers of Vitebsk.
And I'm also joined by the lovely Darren. Would you like to introduce yourself, Darren?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Darren Connaughton. I'm Customer Success Agent in the UK, based in London, primarily focused on our media services products. Just a quick note, we'll be taking questions throughout in the chat function and the Q&A. The actual webinar with Simon will be about 25 minutes long, and we'll leave the Q&A and chat function open for about 10 minutes at the end.
Great. So just to perhaps give a little introduction to Ticketco. We know that some of you watching may be completely new to Ticketco. Some of you may have heard of us before. Here you can see a kind of overview of our company ethos. Our vision is to create the global standard for all event payments, and this is definitely something we're working towards with Ticketco Media Services. We're looking to create innovative technology, and we're really trying to put our customers at the center of that technology. So what we hope to achieve by the end of today's session is that we really want to give you the confidence to broadcast your content digitally with Ticketco Media Services. And as a part of that, we want to introduce you to the Ticketco Media Services Welcome Pack, which we've created recently. We're really trying to give you the tools and the confidence to kind of take that step forward with streaming your content. And as a part of that, something that we've been kind of discussing through various workshops is that some of the organisers watching today may actually already have resources at hand that you can use. And it actually doesn't have to be hugely expensive or hugely challenging to get started with streaming. You may actually already have plenty of tools in-house already. So that's all something we're going to explore in today's session. And I think a really kind of key philosophy that kind of encompasses all of those ideas is this term democratizing technology. And it's a term that our CEO, Cora, likes to use quite a lot. What we're really trying to do is to ease the streaming process for our clients. And as a part of that, as I mentioned, we've created this brand new welcome pack. And we also have the amazing input of Simon in this welcome pack. It's someone who's been through the whole process himself, so he's given us some great tips and advice. And there's also a slightly more kind of practical element to this, in that we've made it even easier to activate streams yourself. And what we really hope to emphasize is that streaming does not have to be hugely costly. I think kind of typically or traditionally you may have considered streaming or broadcasting as something only for larger organizations with huge production crews, but that actually doesn't have to be the case. And what we really want to show you is that streaming is a brand new technology that actually it may be something that you hadn't considered an option before, but it really can be something for you, perhaps some smaller organizations that are watching today. So this welcome pack, which is a kind of culmination of working with Simon and with our Ticketco customer success team, is basically the kind of go-to guide for when you're getting started with streaming. Having kind of worked with our organisers for kind of around 9 to 6 months now, we found that we really needed a kind of comprehensive guide that took you right from the beginning of streaming all the way through to the end, and to get you started with using Ticketco. I think it's probably a good time to say, Simon, perhaps you could explain some of the kind of ideas or preconceptions you had when you were considering streaming back in the summer.
Oh boy, where to start? I mean, when we first had the idea to do something online, we kind of didn't know what we didn't know. We were starting from complete scratch. I knew it was possible because I spent most of lockdown one watching my youngest son watching YouTube videos of people playing Minecraft in their bedrooms. And I kind of felt, well, the streaming technology, the method of getting a camera into a computer and online must be possible, and it looked robust. And those sort of mini improvised shows were a huge influence on me, because I thought, well, there are people streaming to a mass market, and it works and it looks great. Next was Matthew Watchers texted me to say, what did I think about putting Lungs back on the old Vic stage and maybe trying to do a live stream of that. So then it was kind of about, how do we get a few cameras plugged into a computer that we could then send that down the internet somehow. And I just kept building from there, really. But the thing that I hadn't and couldn't quite solve was how to put a responsible paywall around that work. And also, I was being asked lots of questions by rights holders or license holders at the time, or and certainly board members, and it was all around that paywall and that user experience, or audience as we like to call them, which is when I finally arrived with TicketCo.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that we are offering with our TicketCo Media Services platform. And I think one of the really key and valuable parts of this welcome pack, which we've created for our new and for our existing organisers, is the input that Simon has. You can see his comments marked in green throughout the welcome pack, and he's also contributed to the production sections. Other areas that are covered in our welcome pack include, for example, how you would create events in the TicketCo platform, how you would set up your different ticket types, and also how you might collect reports once you've started selling. And then finally, we also give you some tips and advice in the final section about how you can communicate with your audience. So here you can see at the bottom of the screen now, you have the address where you can find our welcome pack on our support pages. And you can see it's broken up into these 10 key steps, the 10 steps to streaming success. And it's not designed so that you read through it all in one go. You're more than welcome to, but it's kind of broken up into digestible sections so that you can dive in and out of it as needed. So I really think this is one way that TicketCo is trying to support our organisers when it comes to streaming and going on that journey to streaming success. But I wonder, Simon, could you perhaps explain how else TicketCo supported you and Wise Children when it came to streaming?
Well, finding TicketCo was a big relief, really. I mean, there were two reasons why. The first one is there were I found it reassuring there were actually people to talk to. We've become really used to technology companies being rather faceless and pretty much run on AI. So the actual joy of getting an email back from somebody saying, why don't we just get on a Zoom together and we can talk it through? Really refreshing, because I'd spent quite a long time looking at lots of other variants of box offices and paywalls and pay-per-view event companies. So I enjoyed that personal attachment, because it's quite scary, isn't it, putting your event online and thinking, I'm just going to hit a button and suddenly everything's going to work. But here was a company where there are lots of people working, and you could meet them and you could pick up the phone and talk to them. So that was a relief and a shock in this environment. The second thing that I liked and enjoyed about it was it's very much a pay-per-view model at a time when our cash flow, as I'm sure everybody's is our cash flow is a disaster at Wise Children, but having a pay-per-view model meant we didn't have to make a huge long commitment. We didn't have to buy into a technology that we weren't sure about. We weren't on a sort of 7-day trial thing and then we were going to be committed to something we started work on. So that really helped us as well. So those were the two key things at the very beginning that I found were really useful about TicketCo.
Great, thanks so much. And I think on a kind of practical level, this is also something that will be perhaps new to Simon, is that we've made it now even easier to create those streaming channels yourself. So unfortunately, we don't have time to go through how you would set up a streaming event in the platform today, but there are plenty of other webinars that cover this topic, as well as obviously our welcome pack. So previously you would have had to ask us to activate the streams for you in the Ticketco platform, but now you can actually do this yourself. The only exception to that is if your stream is lasting longer than 4 hours, in which case you can just pop us an email at the address you find there, and then we'll assist you further. So I think that's actually a really kind of practical way, and it really links to that democratizing technology that we mentioned earlier, and that we're trying to give you the tools to get started with streaming on your own. And I think, as Simon has kind of alluded to up to now, it can be very perhaps daunting and a bit overwhelming when it comes to working with this new technology. And we really hope that we're going to try and combat some of these worries with our welcome pack and with today's discussion. I think it's fair to say, when you start considering especially the production element of streaming, there's so much out there on the market, lots of different kinds of hardware and software, and it can be a bit confusing to know where to start. And I think that's actually where Simon's sections in the welcome pack regarding production are really important and a great kind of starting point. I wonder, Simon, whether you could perhaps elaborate a bit on what you found when it came to hardware versus software.
Yeah, I mean, just to put some of this in context, Wise Children, for those of you that don't know us, we're a relatively small and new touring theatre company, and we're an NPO, which is a national portfolio organisation, and which means is that our remit is to tour nationally and internationally to those regional theatres, the mid-scale regional venues. So around 450, 700 seats, that's the kind of territory and budget we're in. So places like the Bristol Old Vic, which is our home, if you like. So the thing that I was interested in, the experiment I was interested in, was how far could we get on our own? How far could we get without bringing in external help from film or TV production companies? And kind of at the time, it was really how far could I get with my credit card? So I think our entire capital outlay for Romantics, which was to purchase everything we needed to try and get on air, was around about 15,000. Now we're a small company, so we don't have as many purchasing hoops to get through. We don't have to tender out jobs in that complicated way that larger organizations might have to. So we could do things like buy from eBay and secondhand camera shops and, you know, the industry style auctions. And we bought new equipment as well, but we might have bought equipment over from the US in order to aid our supply. I largely use the Blackmagic Design cameras. They do a 4K and a 6K. We own the 4K version. And we also have quite a good selection of lenses. And remember, a decent lens is around about the same price. A secondhand lens is around about the same price as a camera. We did invest heavily in tripods. Tripods give you that great kind of pro look and feel. And we use lots of other bits in the Blackmagic Design workflow. And the way of getting online, we use a piece of software called OBS, which is probably the most stripped back version of getting your stream online you can do. It's a free bit of software. It's community driven. I'm a big fan of it. There's lots of other versions of OBS, Wirecast and vMix and Livestream, and they all have pluses and minuses and pros and cons. But OBS is the most pared back version, which I've been working with. And of course, because I came from sound, we're very used to building sort of backup systems. So we're very good at building in redundancy. So we can start to alleviate producer nerves at that point.
I mean, I think a really key takeaway from that is that there is so much out there, and you're more than welcome to invest in this great hardware and great software, but you don't need to. And if you are kind of smart about it, and if you read some of the tips that Simon's provided in our production elements of the welcome pack, I think it doesn't really have to be kind of incredibly costly. And we also know that some of you might not be thinking of producing this yourselves. You might have kind of production teams coming in, which is absolutely fine. And in which case they might have some questions regarding the kind of production spec when it comes to streaming. And I think it's fair to say, after having kind of various discussions with Simon and our other organisers, that actually bigger doesn't always mean better when it comes to the production specs. Would you agree with that, Simon?
Yeah, it's something that people ask me a lot, and something I've looked at a lot. And I think the thing to consider, by the way, if the production specs, if you're watching this and they don't make any sense, don't worry. It is kind of quite well explained in the stuff we've written in that welcome pack. But you can often be, it's like walking into a TV shop and immediately everybody wants to buy the biggest television screen or the largest loudspeaker. And it's often not perhaps the best solution for you. You need to balance lots of different things. And the thing that I was interested in was, given the pot of money we had, we needed to balance our sort of creative ambition with our technical ambition, but also the audience's experience, in that it felt to me there was no point us trying to achieve a sort of ultra high definition 4K stream at 60 frames per second and putting lots of money into really expensive cameras in order to then compromise somewhere else, whether it be the sound or wherever it might be in the production. And also bearing in mind that what we knew about our audiences, most people are watching in HD, so they're watching either sort of 1920 by 1080 picture or a 720 picture. And also a lot of our statistics, people aren't necessarily always watching on TV. 50% of our digital audience probably engage with us on their mobile phone. So it's really about balancing all those different things when you've got a limited resource. So not necessarily is somebody sort of dangles that we can do this for you in Ultra HD and 4K and it's going to be amazing. It's just worth stepping back and considering what that balance of things might be. That's certainly where I was with the project.
I think that's some really great advice. And as you say, there might be quite a few of your audience watching on their phones or on an iPad, for example, in which case we recommend perhaps keeping a more kind of constant stream rather at perhaps a lower frame rate, rather than going high on the frame rate and then frames dropping out, for example. But this is all explained in our welcome pack if it feels a bit overwhelming at the moment. And also it's worth mentioning that some of you might not actually be hiring production teams. And I think this is a really great quote that is included in our pack from Simon. I think it's kind of linked to this idea of using the resources you may already have and the staff you may already have at hand. Perhaps you could elaborate a little bit on this idea, Simon?
Well, as I said before, I sort of really wanted to see how far we could go on our own. And there were two driving factors, I think, for it. I mean, the first one was cost. I've nothing against large TV production crews or film production crews. I've used them, I've worked with them, I've worked on shows for those teams. But the cost tends to put it beyond the reach of organizations at our scale, which meant if we'd have followed that model, we wouldn't have been able to do Romantics or Flying Lovers. So I really wanted to think that's why I was thinking, how far can we get on our own, which is, and both the work at the Old Vic and at Wise Children have sort of helped with that. And I also was interested in seeing what would happen if we put the technology back into the creative team. Quite often those live streams are, although they can be a good collaboration, they're often an outside company coming in and filming an event which your creative team, your company, and your organization's made. And there can sometimes be a disconnect around that. It's almost like the film is a witness to the event you've made. And I was interested to see if we put cameras, if we put that technology right into the center of the creative team, what would happen? Would that make a better online experience, or would it make a different online experience? So there were two things I was working with. And it's interesting to see when you look around your own organization, what skills you have for free. You know, we learned really quickly that treating cameras like follow spots in terms of the way you might notate them down works. Stage management are brilliant at this kind of work, as are follow spot operators, as are sound operators. So there's a lot of people within your organization, I think, that actually with a little bit of thought and a bit of upskilling, I don't really like the phrase upskilling, but a change of skill or a redevelopment of skill, I think you have a lot for free in your own organizations.
I think that's really interesting. And as you say, it's really empowering to kind of give that technology back to those that are the kind of creative team behind a project. And also, as you say, it kind of involves perhaps a slightly reimagining or reconceptualizing about how different groups within an organization work together. Perhaps you don't need to, you can use the stuff you already have. You just have to slightly reconsider how different groups work together. And this is something that links onto this section here about helping you to help your ticket buyers. I think it's fair to say that this was something that was quite new to Wise Children. From a ticket company perspective, it seems quite obvious to us that the organisers, our clients, would kind of answer and have to interact with the audience and answer their questions. But actually, we found out this was perhaps a kind of new idea for Wise Children, and it involved a bit more of that reimagining of how you would communicate with your audience. Perhaps you could explain a little bit more, Sam, about how you communicated with your audience.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, it did really catch me off guard when we started and we put the show on sale. I mean, it's funny because, of course, a lot of you will be from venues that are watching, and of course you have your own box office and you understand how box office work and interactions with audience and the type of questions they ask. Wise Children as an organisation largely never has to deal with its audience directly, because we're like a kind of content provider to theatres, if you like. So there was a sort of huge shock thinking, oh right, we're going to have to answer all these emails, and quite a lot come in because people are nervous. People are nervous about whether they've got the technology to watch it. There's a million different paths to view things at the moment. The TV on demand landscape is quite complicated. And then on top of that, you've got questions about the show, about, you know, the normal stuff. How long is it? Will my kids like it? I want to buy 25 tickets for a school group. All of those questions. So suddenly you've got this massive incoming email that all needs dealing with. And Wise Children's a tiny team. There are kind of 4 of us that try and manage this. What it meant is that I soon realized we just needed to get much better at our messaging, whether that's on our website, whether that's for our social media work, or whether that's through direct communication. But we certainly needed to get better at our messaging in order to try and reduce the amount of incoming email we had.
And that's a really key and interesting point there. And this is something that we've taken on board, this feedback from Wise Children and from our other organisers. And we've designed the final part of our welcome pack, the 10th section, all around this idea of reassuring your audience and how you can best communicate with your audience when it comes to box office inquiries, for example. And I think something that we've all learned is that the communication is key, the more the better. And you can use the kind of tools that we already have in our platform to communicate with your audience at every step of the purchase process. So for example, we have this box, how to use the item under ticket types, where you can add a little description. And we also have this contact attendees function where you can send out an email to all your ticket buyers. And I think that's definitely something Wise Children used really successfully. I wonder whether you could, I don't know if you can quantify how many of your audience got in touch with you, if this improved over time at all, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we started, I think we probably had around 10% of people considering buying a ticket, would want some kind of interaction with us. And usually it was about, how is this going to work? They'd had an experience before, maybe, you know, watching theatre online before, and they really wanted information from us about how it was going to work, when it was going to work. And we're also working with some American theatres as well, so there's all those questions about time differences. So we were around about 10%. I think we spent a long time reworking our copy. I mean, it's one of the great things about working digitally is that you can keep changing copy and updating it rather than committing it to when you're working in print. And we spent a long time reworking our copy and our wording and terminology. And one of the things I went back to quite quickly was I decided to ditch anything which was related to tech. So I wanted to go back to theatre terminology, or old school TV terminology, in that I was going to get rid of the word live streaming and go back to live broadcast. I sort of wanted showtime rather than start stream or doors opening. So I really worked hard on that language, and tried to find a voice within Wise Children's language of how that was going to work. And I think by doing that, we dropped down our incoming rate to around about 2%, which was that was good. That felt about right for us. That's something we could then manage. And I'm not sure, certainly by the time we did the second show, we had Flying Lovers, we had a noticeable drop in the amount of people emailing, yet our ticket sales were around about the same. So that's either our messaging's got better, or our audience has started to normalize watching online. I can't quite work out which. It's probably a little bit of both. And I certainly used, I just noticed it on the slide, but we talking to the audience, it's great because you're able to communicate with your audience directly, which is really good. Somebody that's actually engaged with your company. But you can cut down a lot of questions and fear we used to email our audience at 10 o'clock of the day of the stream to say, remember you're hanging out with us today. You're going to find your ticket here. This is how you get online. We might send them an online program. And then we do a similar email around about 6 o'clock. And that really did reduce all those emails coming in just as we're about to hit start stream when we're all frantically busy doing other things. So it's worth that constant communication with the audience is really good.
I think these experiences that Simon's had is just really invaluable, and we've included them in our welcome pack. And it's all about perhaps using the tools that we have within TicketGo to kind of best communicate with your audience. And I think when you get that right, you really can get some really great streaming success. And here is just the incredible example, which is Wise Children streaming through TicketGo. And I wonder whether you can expand a little bit on this, Simon, about how many tickets were sold and viewers.
I was thinking about this because we're thinking about what we might do next, but it was a great way to connect with our audience. I mean, Romantic sold around about 11,000 tickets. Our second one, which remember is a curious two-hander about the Russian artist Mark Chagall, we sold a similar amount. And we partnered because we were trying to expand how we might sell a ticket, we partnered with lots of other theatres to help us promote it. So there's lots of stuff in there. We're connecting with their audience in a time where we hadn't been able to connect with their audience. We're managing to build our own mailing database of people that are actually committed and interested in the work we're doing, which is sort of invaluable, certainly much more useful than staring at 3% social media engagement rates. And it's a great way to bring an organization together because suddenly, the organization's working again, but also lots of departments which probably don't usually interact with each other have to work with each other in order to bring this to life. And that was quite exciting. And we also managed to, which is obviously a big thing for me, we managed to put a lot of freelancers back in work as well. So there's sort of huge benefits, which for an arts organization, not necessarily commercial organizations, but for arts organizations go far beyond how much money we can actually bring into the company. There's lots and lots of other benefits.
I think that's fantastic, and that's a kind of great note to end on for today. And if we're just going to perhaps draw some conclusions here, I think again we'd just like to emphasize that you can find our welcome pack at support.ticketco.events. And we also want to kind of really underline this idea that streaming doesn't have to be hugely costly or challenging, and that we at TicketCo are here to support you on that journey to streaming success. If you have any questions, then you can always contact us at support@ticketco.net, and we're here to support you on email, on phone, and through our help articles. And we want to help you to help your ticket buyers, and that's why we've kind of designed this welcome pack, and that's why we've tried to take you through from the beginning of the journey all the way to the end. So if you are interested in perhaps joining TicketCo, if you have any further questions, then we've added a couple of links here at the end. You've got the start.ticketco.events is our sales page. And there's also a form at the end there, which you can use to book an appointment and get in contact with our sales team. And finally, as we mentioned earlier, Darren is hanging around in the chat if you have any other questions for us. And I think Simon will also be taking some questions now. Simon, do you have anything else you'd like to add at this point?
No, I think we're all good. I mean, I think I've never written so much in my life, so we've written quite a lot between you know, me and the rest of the team and the team at TicketCo. So it's worth reading. There's some questions in the chat which I can quickly go through now, if that's useful, Jessica. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah.
Philip says, planning on filming a production and streaming performances like we did the second week of Flying Lowers. What's the process for live streaming, something that's pre-recorded? There's a sort of slight mix in terminology there. I think what you're describing is making something and then using TicketCo have a thing called video on demand, which is slightly different from live streaming. Everything works pretty much the same, but rather than hitting start stream and everything's live, you're literally giving people access to a video file you've uploaded to the site prior. I think that's what you mean, but let me know if it's not. How long did it take to grow an audience for stream content? Well, the truth is the first time we put Romantics on sale, we put it on sale 6 weeks in advance. And we thought that was late. We were working off sort of, normally if we were planning a musical, we'd be thinking getting it on sale quite early, maybe 4 months in advance. The thing we found is online audiences don't quite respond in the same way, and certainly audiences at the moment don't respond in the same way as they did in an old model, in that you tend to find your diehard fans, your diehard community will book a ticket pretty much instantly. So you see a big spike on the first day of release, and then you completely plateau for as long as you're on sale until you hit the actual day of streaming, and then you see another spike. So you do have to hold your nerve a little bit. I would say we'd sold 60, maybe 70% of our tickets on the day of performance. So it's a slightly more scary model, and especially when you're watching cash flow, it's a slightly scarier model than maybe the old world of selling a theatre ticket. Did we do well through other theatres through TicketCo? I think that's because we originally sold Romantics Anonymous. We partnered with 32 other companies. Yes, it works really well because we were trying to build a database from scratch. Other theatres that have a more active online digital audience obviously do better than those that don't have a big digital following. But in terms of community, it's great to be talking and working with those other theatres. I think there's a question about branding and how the booking page looks. The booking page and branding is, there's only one set up for branding, but Darren can probably answer that better than me.
Yeah, so we can completely white label your pages in terms of embedding it on other ticketing or on your own website. We can use what we call iframes, which basically embeds the booking process into your own page, so customers won't actually leave your website, and that iframe can be embedded and branded into your own particular website.
There's a question from Caroline that says, how do the logistics of partnerships with other venues work? I actually, on the first time we did it, I don't think I got it particularly right. But by the second time, by Flying Lovers, I've managed to work it out a lot better. So we could have lots of separate events, although all live streaming the same thing, but that would give everybody an opportunity to either rebrand it or get the time right, or, you know, there's lots of different ways of doing it. So there's lots of, as ever with tech, there's lots of ways to bend what something is around what you need it to be. I'm not sure of your exact requirements, but there's probably a way in which you can bend the rules. There's always a way you can bend the rules of those things. How does the service integrate with existing ticket packages? I think Darren's probably on that because I've got no idea. What form did partnering take with venues? Did you sell through their box office and give them a percentage? No, we sold through our box office, and we tracked how many tickets they sold, and we paid a percentage back based on how many tickets they sold. We looked at various models, but that was kind of the fairest model, based on, obviously, some people have big digital audiences and some people don't have big digital audiences. Ash from the Oxford Playhouse, what broadband speed do you suggest? It's a really good question. You need to be, the bare minimum to broadcast safely and for you not to be stressed all night is 12 meg. Having said that, I've broadcast when I've had to off my phone before, which I think you know, at 6 meg. So, but I would really work with your IT department. You want to see something a lot more robust than 12. I'd be nervous. So I think in the welcome pack, I say, basically, if your bit rate is at 6,000, you need to double that, and that will give you how fast your broadband speed needs to be. But you need to allow for headroom, you need to allow for dropouts, you need for quality of service chokes going on with the broadband provider. So as fast as you can possibly get. But in a panic, yeah, you can do it off your mobile phone, but I wouldn't recommend it. What led you to the live stream route versus edited and recorded? Emma Rice, really, that was the experiment we were interested in. There's something magic about joining together to know that there's somebody on stage performing something as you watch it in your living room. There's something joyful about that. It has the jeopardy of live theatre. Pre-recorded theatre is all about making choices and edits and retuning and retakes, and we wanted something very pure. It's a personal thing, it's part of the creative process, but that's very much why we chose the live stream thing. And it was also the same experiment we were interested in at the Old Vic. Here was this empty theatre. We wanted to try and recreate that feeling of being with us, which is why you'll notice on the Old Vic shows the stage is spun 180, so you can see the empty auditorium, a reminder of where we all should be and where we all love being. I understand there's a file size limit on uploading for on-demand performance. Yep, it's 15 gig, but there's I wrote a codec for it, which I think is in one of the welcome packs somewhere. I understand the file limit. Are you looking forward towards audience targeting beyond your database and established loyal fans? Yes, always. We're always looking. Every single person that adds to our mailing list feels like a hard fought competition these days. So yes, I think it's a very good way of expanding an audience and growing an audience, particularly on the international circuit as well. I think that's got to be enough from me, hasn't it? People must be bored of listening to me talk now.
I think unless perhaps there's a few more questions that Darren can answer, but otherwise I think we can probably wrap up there. So I just want to say a massive thank you to Simon for everything he's contributed to the welcome pack and for joining us on today's session. And just to reiterate, you can contact our sales team on the links you can see on this page, and you will also get a copy of the webinar sent to you, seeing as you've already signed up for the webinar. So I think that's everything. Darren, do you have any final comments?
No, I'll just answer some of these questions here in the chat by text, and yeah, I'll give out our support address for anybody who has any further queries to get in contact with us. So.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, thanks, Jessica. See you all soon.
Bye-bye.